Close your eyes for a second. Seriously, just for a moment. Picture a city that smells like salt, ink, and burning oil lamps. Ships from every corner of the known world crowd the harbor. Egypt, Greece, Persia, India. Sailors shouting in languages that don't even exist anymore. Now imagine that every one of those ships is stopped, searched, and stripped of its books. Not for money, not for power, but for knowledge. Because somewhere in that city, behind marble columns and sun-bleached courtyards, there is a building with one job: to remember everything.
You're already doing the voice. That's never a good sign.
This place didn't collect stories for entertainment. It collected answers. Answers to questions we still argue about today. Medicine, astronomy, engineering, the nature of the soul, the shape of the universe. Things we like to pretend we figured out much later.
Or things people thought they figured out and got wrong.
And that's what they tell us. The Library of Alexandria wasn't just shelves and scrolls. It was a weapon, a soft one, the kind that doesn't conquer land, it conquers time.
Already disagreeing with the premise? Strong start.
Look, this wasn't Wikipedia with candles. It was a state-funded, government-backed attempt to own reality. They didn't ask nicely for books. They seized them, copied them, kept the originals, and if you were a scholar, you didn't just visit. You lived there, fed, housed, paid, on the condition that you think.
Which sounds great until you remember it's being run by people in charge.
Exactly. Now here's the part everyone knows. It burned. A fire, an accident, a tragedy. Humanity's greatest hoops.
Classic us.
But here's the thing. We can't agree when it burned, or how, or who did it. Some say Julius Caesar. Some say religious mobs. Some say neglect. Some say it faded away quietly like an old god no one worships anymore. And some say it never really disappeared at all.
Oh, we're doing this already.
I'm just saying, for something so important, the story we're told is remarkably vague.
Because it was 2,000 years ago.
So was the pyramids, and somehow we know exactly how heavy those stones were. What if the fire wasn't the story, but the excuse?
I hate that sentence.
What if knowledge didn't vanish? What if it was filtered, decided, curated, trimmed down to something more manageable?
You're implying a conspiracy before we've even rolled the intro.
I'm implying a pattern. Empires don't just fall, they're edited. Somewhere in history, we lost more than books. We lost timelines, we lost methods, we lost ideas that didn't fit where power wanted humanity to go next. And tonight, this episode isn't about what burned. It's about what scared people enough to let it burn.
This is meant to be the cold open.
It is.
People are going to think we've lost it.
Good, because if the Library of Alexandria taught us anything, is that the most dangerous thing in the world is a human being who knows too much. Hello everyone and welcome back to Mindzilla, the podcast where we take a perfectly reasonable historical topic and then hold it down until it confesses.
That cold open was unnecessary. I like that noted for the record.
You say that every time history threatens your worldview.
You opened with "they conquered time."
Because they did, Luke. Allegedly. We'll get there.
Alright, I'm Luke.
And I'm Jess. And today we are talking about the Library of Alexandria.
Which is, on paper, a noble and respectable topic.
On papyrus, Luke.
Already unbearable.
So just to manage expectations up top, this is going to be a long one for Luke.
Like, emotionally?
Emotionally for you, spiritually for me, yes. This episode is structured very intentionally.
Which means the first half is facts and the second half is Jess waving her arms shouting, "But have you considered?"
Correct. But, and this is important, we're earning it.
We are.
We're starting with what we can actually fact check. Historians, primary sources, mainstream scholarship, names, dates, receipts, all the boring stuff.
Sources will be named out loud. You'll know where things come from.
And
Then we slowly lose the plot.
then we liberate the plot, you mean? Before we dive in, quick bit of housekeeping and a massive thank you to everyone supporting us. You are the reason we're allowed to do episodes that last longer than some marriages.
Including ours at this rate.
Let's get to what people tuned in for today. The Library of Alexandria isn't just a what if, it's a hinge point.
A hinge between what humanity knew and what it was allowed to remember.
Thank you.
I hated saying that.
So, ground rules. We start calm. We start factual. We build slowly.
No jumping ahead.
I promise not to shout the Vatican until we get all the boring facts out the way.
Please. So, let's begin properly. No conspiracies, no speculation, just history. What was the Library of Alexandria? Who built it? Why did it exist? And what do historians actually agree on? This is the part where I'm relaxed.
Enjoy it.
That felt like a threat.
Never. Alright, deep breath, everyone. This is the calm part.
Thank you.
It's just facts, history, stuff you could say at a dinner party without people slowly backing away.
Important distinction.
Let's start simple. The Library of Alexandria was in Alexandria, Egypt, founded around 300 BCE during the rule of the Ptolemaic dynasty.
Which were Greek rulers, not Egyptian.
Important point. Egyptian land, Greek power.
Alexander the Great founded the city, but he died before the library existed. So the credit usually goes to Ptolemy I or Ptolemy II. Historians still argue which one.
Already drama.
Now, this is important. It was not just a building full of books.
Yes, say it louder for the people who imagine dusty shelves.
The library was part of a large place called Museum. That means Temple of the Muses, which was basically an ancient research center.
Like a university, but with better funding, scholars lived there, worked there, were paid by the state. Free food, free housing.
The only job was to study and write.
Honestly, dream gig. And what were they studying?
Pretty much everything. Math, medicine, astronomy, geography, history, poetry, engineering, language.
And not just Greek tests.
They collected works from many cultures: Egyptian, Persian, Babylonian. Some sources even suggest Indian texts.
Keyword suggest.
Yes, we have to be clear.
Now this bit is wild and fully backed by sources. Ships that came into the port of Alexandria were searched. Any books on board were taken, copied by scribes. The copies were returned to the ship. The originals were kept. Imagine that today.
You dock in London and they'll be like, thanks for your Kindle, we're keeping it.
State-funded piracy.
This is where numbers get messy.
Very messy.
Ancient sources give different figures. Some say 40,000 scrolls, others say 400,000.
Some even say 700,000.
Most modern historians think the lower numbers are safer. But even the low estimate is huge for the time. This was the biggest collection of written knowledge on Earth.
And this is where it gets impressive. Some of the greatest thinkers in history worked there. Euclid,
Father of geometry,
Aristotles.
he calculated the size of the Earth, and he was shockingly accurate using sticks and shadows, which is rude, frankly. There were also early doctors who studied anatomy.
Sometimes through dissection, which was not common elsewhere.
Key thing was method. They didn't just collect knowledge, they compared it.
Edited it, corrected errors, they argued.
A lot.
This is where we get early versions of peer review.
They cared about accuracy, which sounds basic, but it wasn't at the time. Most of what we know comes from later writers.
People like Strabo and Plutarch, also Athenaeus.
Modern historians, like those cited by Britannica, and History.com back this up.
Wikipedia actually does a solid job here too for a change.
Yes, with sources checked.
Important reality check moment. We do not have a list of all the books. We do not know everything that was inside. And we do not know exactly how long it lasted at full power. So, anyone who says, I know exactly what was lost,
Is lying or selling something. Here's the key takeaway. This place was real.
it was organized
It was funded and it worked for a long time.
long enough to change the world.
And then it didn't. And that is where I start to feel less relaxed.
Good, because next we talk about what we don't have anymore.
Still factual?
Mostly,
I don't like that answer.
so far everything we talk about sits on solid ground. Places, people, dates. The Library of Alexandria existed. It collected knowledge. It mattered. But now we reach the edge of what we can clearly see. And beyond that edge are gaps. Not dramatic ones, quiet ones. The kind that only appear when you stop assuming history is complete.
This is where historians start using phrases like we don't know and it's unclear.
And that's not weakness, that's honesty. Here's the first unsettling thing. We know there were books in the ancient world that no longer exist. Not guesses, not rumors. Books that are mentioned by name, quoted, argued with, and then gone.
We know this because later writers talk about them. They say things like as written by or as argued in, and we're left holding a reference to something we can't read. Entire works by early scientists are missing.
Histories, medical texts, early maps. Take medicine, for example. We know Alexandrian doctors studied anatomy.
That's confirmed by sources like Elian, who wrote later,
He refers to earlier doctors, people whose books are gone.
some surgical knowledge seems to appear, then vanish, then reappears centuries later.
Which raises a quiet question. If progress is a straight line, why does it keep looping back on itself? Same with geography. We know Aristotle measured the earth. We know others built on his work. But many of their writings are missing.
Ancient writers mentioned detailed maps, maps that showed lands we officially discovered much later. Again, not proof of anything wild, just absence.
Another quiet problem. Language. Most of what survives today came through Greek, which means texts written in their original languages had to be translated.
And translation is never neutral. Things get simplified, changed, lost. Sometimes entire ideas don't cross over at all.
This is where history gets uncomfortable, because survival is not random. Texts that were copied lived.
Texts that weren't died.
Copying took time, money, interest, which means someone always chose what mattered. Not maliciously, necessarily, but practically, and practicality shapes reality.
Classic historians like Plutarch and Strabo mention lost works.
Modern historians writing for Britannica and History.com openly say large parts of ancient science are missing. Even the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy talks about gaps in early thought. What makes this unsettling is not what we lost, is how normal loss became. Centuries pass, libraries fade, knowledge shrinks, and we're taught to accept that as the natural order.
Knowledge doesn't decay on its own.
People stop protecting it.
Up to this point, there's nothing conspiratorial,
No, just absence.
which is frustrating and dangerous because gaps invite stories and stories invite speculation.
And speculation invites power.
I don't like where this is heading.
Good, because next we talk about what might have been inside the library. Not claims, not certainty, but educated guesses.
Still grounded?
Grounded enough to stand on, but thin enough to feel it bend.
Right. Well, this is the part where we need to slow down. Not because things get silly, but because this is where people often jump too far. We are not saying we know what was in the Library of Alexandria. We don't. What we can do is look at what existed in the ancient world, what scholars were working on, and what later writers referred to. From that, we can make educated guesses.
Keyword educated.
Yes, not vibes. Let's start with math. We know geometry was advanced.
Very advanced. Euclid worked in Alexandria. His work survived.
But other mathematicians are mentioned whose books did not.
Which already tells us something was lost.
There were early ideas about algebra before it had a name, and early work on infinity.
Which always goes well.
Astronomy is where things get interesting.
Careful.
We know ancient scholars tracked planets accurately. They knew the Earth was round, they measured it. Some texts suggest models where the Earth was not the center.
And those ideas vanish.
We're not saying heliocentrism was proven.
But it was considered.
Yes, that matters. Medicine is another big one.
This is my favorite calm topic.
Alexandrian doctors studied the human body. In ways banned elsewhere, they named organs, mapped systems. Some surgical methods appear early, then disappear, and come back much later. This suggests knowledge was lost, not discovered fresh. Engineering is often overlooked.
Which is wild.
We know about devices like the mechanical computer. It wasn't from Alexandria, but it shows what was possible.
And Alexandria collected ideas.
There were water clocks, pumps, early steam devices. Ancient historians wrote detailed accounts of places we can't fully identify now. Some described trade routes that suggest wide travel. Again, not proof, but interesting.
Always interesting.
This section pulls from writers like Strabo, Galen, and Ptolemy.
Modern analysis from Britannica and National Geographic backs up what existed. And historians agree that loss was significant. They just disagree on how significant.
Now, very important, we are not saying the library had spaceships.
Not yet.
We are not saying it had secret world-ending tech.
Yet.
We are saying this. The ancient world was smarter than we give it credit for.
Curious. And when you remove curiosity, progress slows.
Here's the part that bothers me. When you look at all of this together, the math, the medicine, the astronomy, you get the sense that humanity was asking big questions early.
And then stopped.
Or was forced to.
You said that, not me.
I know, up to now, everything fits inside reason.
Barely.
But reason holds.
For now.
The next step is dangerous.
Because the next step isn't about what might have been there. It's about why it didn't survive.
And that's where I stop leading.
Thank you. Take my hand.
I don't like that.
You're going to. Okay. Up until now, Luke has been driving facts, sources, careful steps. So everyone take a moment and thank him for his service.
I don't like how you said that.
Because now I'm taking over.
Right.
Let's start with fire. Because every version of the story wants you to picture flames, big ones, accidental ones, tragic ones. And the story always goes like this. Humanity builds something beautiful, then, oops, fire, the end.
That is broadly the story.
It's a very comfortable story, because accidents don't have motives. Here's the problem. There isn't one destruction story. There are many. Caesar, religious mobs, neglect, time, politics.
Historians say it declined over centuries.
Yes, and that explanation should bother you more than it does.
Why?
Because nothing that powerful is allowed to simply fade. Let's be very clear about something. Knowledge is power, but not in a motivational poster way. Knowledge tells you who is lying, who is in charge, and who doesn't need to be.
I agree with that.
Good. Now imagine a place where scholars are proving things that challenge rules. Medical truths, astronomy, history.
You're assuming conflict.
I'm assuming patterns. Every empire that survives controls the story of reality. If the Library of Alexandria stayed open, if it kept collecting, if it kept comparing ideas, it would eventually answer questions that religion, monarchy, and empire depend on staying unanswered.
That's speculative.
So is believing power politely steps aside. Here's where it gets interesting. What if the library wasn't destroyed? But what if it was dismantled? Slowly, quietly, scrolls removed, funding cut, scholars pushed out.
There's no direct proof of that.
Of course not. That's how it works. Notice something strange. Knowledge doesn't vanish completely. It breaks into pieces. A medical method here, a math idea there. Never enough to rebuild the whole.
Can happen naturally.
It can, but it also happens intentionally. Ask yourself this. Do you really believe that the most important texts ever written were all sitting in one place, waiting politely to burn?
No one says all of them were.
Exactly. So, where did the rest go? Every time this comes up, people get uncomfortable. Hidden archives, private collections, religious vaults.
We have to be careful here.
I'm being careful. I'm not saying who has them. I'm saying someone always keeps the receipts. Empires don't throw knowledge away, they lock it up. Here's my favorite part. Look at history after Alexandria. Centuries where progress slows, then suddenly a burst, the Renaissance.
Which was driven by rediscovered texts,
Rediscovered from where?
monasteries, private collections.
Say that again louder? I'm just joking, but on a serious note, what if humanity has been reset more than once? Not by aliens, not by magic, but by control. Knowledge trimmed back to keep people manageable.
That's a big claim.
So is we just forgot how to build things. Ask the most important question. Who benefits from people believing the past was stupid?
People in the present.
Exactly. If the past was clever, then power today looks less impressive. So maybe the fire happened, or maybe it didn't. But what matters is this. The fire is the story that we were told, so we'd stop asking questions.
That's uncomfortable.
Good.
I need to say something. There is a line between suspicion and certainty.
I'm not asking for certainty, I'm asking for curiosity. What if we are not as advanced as we think? What if we are recovering?
I hate how reasonable that sounds.
I know, right? The Library of Alexandria is not a tragedy. It's a warning. Knowledge doesn't disappear. It gets hidden, broken, controlled. And the most dangerous lie ever told was that no one would do that on purpose.
I need a drink.
Hold my hand.
No.
We're not done yet, because we still need to talk about what it would mean if some of the knowledge came back.
That feels worse.
All right, everything we said after the fire, the gaps, the control, the questions, I want to slow this right down. Because this part isn't about fear, it's about possibility.
This feels like the bit that lingers.
It should. Every time we talk about the Library of Alexandria, people jump straight to loss. What we lost, what was taken, but there's another way to look at it. What we could have been.
That's the harder question.
Imagine a world where knowledge wasn't reset, where medicine kept building, where science didn't stall, where curiosity wasn't punished.
We might be living in a very different place.
Or maybe just a more honest one. Here's the thing that gives me hope. Fragments survived.
Like ruins you can still map.
Exactly. Ancient texts resurface. Old methods are quietly proven right. Modern science keeps saying, oh, they knew this.
That happens more than people think.
So maybe nothing is truly gone. Maybe it's just waiting for the right moment. Think about today. The internet, digital archives, open source knowledge,
Global library.
a new Alexandria. But here's the uncomfortable part.
Who controls it?
Exactly. We're either rebuilding the greatest library humanity has ever known, or we're repeating the same mistake, centralizing knowledge, monetizing it, letting it be shaped by power.
That parallel is hard to ignore.
I don't think the story of Alexandria is meant to scare us. I think it's meant to humble us, to remind us that intelligence isn't new, that curiosity is fragile, and that progress isn't guaranteed.
I hate how much of this makes sense.
I know you do. We don't need to worship the past. We don't need to believe every theory. But we do need to stay awake. Ask who benefits, ask what's missing, and ask why certain questions make people uncomfortable.
That part I'm fully on board with.
Good, because that's how libraries survive. At the start of this episode, I asked you to imagine a city of ink and salt and fire, a place where humanity tried to remember everything. Maybe that place burned, maybe it was broken apart. But the truth is, knowledge doesn't disappear, it gets buried. Every time a question survives censorship, every time a curiosity beats comfort, a little piece of Alexandria still exists.
Which is somehow comforting and deeply stressful.
That's the correct response. And this story doesn't end here, because if you want to understand Alexandria, you have to go back further.
No.
Ancient Egypt, the temples, the priesthoods, the knowledge system that existed long before the Greeks ever arrived. And that's next week's episode.
I need to emotionally prepare for that.
You'll be fine. As always, thank you to everyone supporting us. You make these deep dives possible, from country lore to lost tech to ancient medicine that somehow works better than ours.
And for those still contributing to the Luke Therapy Fund on Patreon, your kindness will not be forgotten. I'd just like to say, if the Library of Alexandria comes back, I'm calling in sick that day.
That's fair. Thank you guys for listening. Stay curious and remember to follow and tell a friend about the show.
See you next week. Bye.
Bye.